Not much. Okay. Okay, so yeah, quick one here. Do we have the designers of any of these Figma files on this call? Let's see. I think I have 3 designs here. If you're on this call, you can go ahead and indicate. Oh, okay. Which of them? Which of the designs? I think that should be this, right? The health related heading, or should I say the header page? Am I correct? Oh, we designed 2. Oh, wow. Okay, let me check again. Great. Okay, so this is good. So just a quick tip here. First off, I think you should try to make sure the contrast. Make sure you create a very good level of contrast, especially on the improved patients engagement and outcome. The size is not bad. But I think maybe the color is just looking like totally different on the whole page. Looking at the color you have here, this color was actually working with these icons I'm seeing here. So I don't know if you created the logo yourself, but this color is not working with the dark purplish color here. And we're seeing like almost 4 different colors here, right? Like 1, 2, 3, 4. I think you're trying to apply some level of gradient here, but you should always make sure you're consistent with your color, or your color works together. So maybe you can check out Color Hunt, which I believe I've also shared with you guys. You can check Color Hunt, or you can check Colors to pick like a pattern, right? So you can just pick one of these patterns and apply it on your design. But so far, so good. This is not bad. The spacing in between these items, I think, is too much. And obviously, you're showing that this item is selected practitioners. So I'm assuming that what we're seeing here is the practitioners page, sort of. And this is not properly aligned here. Try to make sure you align this. Make sure you adjust the spacing. The spacing is too much. Then, align this properly as well. Then the font size you have in here, login or sign up. I don't think the or login or sign up. I think you can make this better. Probably it can be like different buttons, or you can just have the login button or the sign up button. And when they click on that, probably on the modal you add the other option, right? If you really want it that way. Then the spacing is too much, and also the color you're using here is already different from all the colors I've seen so far. So try to work on your color, your choice of colors. And I think the text you have in here, sign up is okay, get started is okay. Sign up for free is not bad. But then maybe since the text is kind of long, maybe it should be bold and bigger. And probably it can even take up like, this section. I don't think you need this one here. But even if you're going to keep this, the space in between is also too much. Then your border radius here, try to be consistent with what you have on your button. And, when you create this kind of card, I believe you can also make it better. So maybe if we still have time after the session today, we can quickly go through this. I think you also designed this second one. So here you have this kind of curved borders, but on your input it's just too sharp, and the outline color is not the best, and also the input icons, I think they are filled, which makes sense, but it's kind of it's just too I mean red is already describing something with an error indication, sort of. But using red here, I don't think it's a good idea. So maybe you can use like something like gray or maybe very light, very light. Make it visible, but not too dark, not as dark as this. Here, I think this is already looking like something you are using center alignment for. Having two icons like this, I don't think it's a good idea. Maybe you can just keep one and take off the other one. The background is not working well with this logo also. It's not so bad, but at least maybe you would have just used like a white variant of this logo. You have T Horizon UI app, and I think this set of text would have also been center aligned because it's already looking like the center alignment thing. But also, I think this text is even too much, and the spacing is not. Try to work on the spacing as well. But so far, so good. This is not bad. It's good. Yeah, well done. Well done. I think you're getting really good at this already, pretty fast. So this is good, huh? What else do I have here? This design is also nice, but alignment is not. Someone is speaking. Yeah, Ella, I think that's you. So you can mute yourself because of the background. So this should be properly aligned. This should be properly aligned. You see, the alignment here is off as well. And your inputs, your text, your choice of text. I think you can also work on that. The text type. So this is a mobile app, so you should use something, sans serif font. I think is better for mobile app designs. So yeah, for you that designed this, I think maybe you should check out Mobin. I think Mobin is a good place, or maybe Patterns, right? If that is correct, patterns.com. Yeah, so this is Mobin, where you can see like tips on how to make good UI design for mobile with different patterns from top companies like Upwork, OpenTable, and some other apps. So they give you like patterns you could use. You don't necessarily need to clone, right? They just give you patterns you could actually use. You can check out the collections, sign up, and there are lots of things to learn from there, including patterns. I will just go ahead and share this with you on the chat very fast. And I think that's all we can, review for today. Maybe we should have a session for just review. I think that would be great as well. I see someone else just posted a design as well, and I mean from the preview, it's looking good. Even though the color I'm seeing is looking like purple, meanwhile it's a coffee design. So try to make sure you are sticking to like your brand, like the context of your design. So maybe you're working on like a coffee app. When you come down to color hunt, for example. So this is just a tip, right? But if you're very good with colors, you can try to come up with your own, choice of colors. But on color hunt, you can definitely search through this category. So I have coffee here. Clicking on coffee, you see it gives us color variants that can work with a coffee brand, right? Yeah, so try to make sure. I think I love this. The fact that we're going from the same color with different temperature, or I think different levels. So I think this is fine. I really like this. Just consistent across the entire design. This is also good. So just check it out. You can scroll through. If you're building something related to nature, related to space, this night, I think night is good for dark themes. We have cream, we have food. So colors you can use for food related apps. I mean, you have like a real, very good color combo here. Yeah, so we're not really talking about Figma today. Neither are we focusing much on design. Rather, we are talking about two major things: user research and also information architecture. But let's see. From the previous class, I taught you how to use the Mirror app. If you were not in that class, go ahead and watch the clip. You can watch the video on YouTube. Maybe someone can help me share it here as well. Amaka, if you can do that, that would be very much appreciated. So let's see user experience. Okay, so I'm trying to open this up on Wikipedia. So when I'm trying to search for this sort of things, I always like to check out Wikipedia first, because of the way their content is structured in a way that the level of accessibility is quite amazing. You can easily see related connections to the concept of user experience. So, for example, reading through the definition, you get to see keywords like ergonomics, which you can open and try to understand what they mean by ergonomics. You get to see keywords like usability. Yeah, so let's also scroll down here, and you see stuff related to UX, right? XLAW, responsive web design, user experience evaluation, user interface design. So I want you to understand one thing. You cannot learn user experience even within like a year. I mean, there are lots of things you need to cover. So we're just going to focus on the basics. Try to understand, how to have user interviews, how to set up calls, discuss with users, try to figure out the pain points of users when it comes to a specific use case that you are trying to develop, or when it comes to a specific problem you're trying to solve. We are also going to try to Hi guys, sorry about that. I hope you can hear me now. Okay, good. Thank you. All right. So yeah, while I'm explaining, if you have any question, you can go ahead to drop your question on the chat. For this class, we are going to focus extremely on a lot of concepts around UI, around UX. Unfortunately, I don't have a slide for you, but I hope going back to this video I strongly believe going back to this video would help you, right? So let's start by talking about design thinking once again. Of course, you've done this already. I'm just going to go through some of these terms, trying to give you a general overview, because we're going to be talking about them from time to time. So I'm going to go ahead and create a simple text document. And the first thing we're going to talk about here is design thinking, which you've covered already, right? So this should not be like a big problem to you. All right. So basically, design thinking is the practice of thinking through problems like a designer, and also giving a couple of advice or a couple of points to why users desire a specific app, why they think of a specific app the way they should think of it. So it's basically trying to also relate to psychology, but kind of like a specific domain in psychology, right? So you're trying to think like the user. You're trying to think of how the user will definitely experience this app. So you are putting yourself in the position of a user to see. Yeah, I hope you can hear me. Okay. All right. So just to understand, the technical feasibility, and what I would also call the viability of this application. So I would give an example. Imagine designing an app, and during the stage of design, you just went ahead to maybe there's a problem around the payments, for example, around international payments and all that, and you went ahead to build this app without proper consultation, without understanding your target audience, without understanding the users, and you just started building, you just started designing, and maybe after designing, you went ahead to even start working with a team of developers to build this app, and at the end of the day, you deliver an application that users do not even understand where to start from. They don't even understand the problem you're trying to define, because at this stage you're trying to define that problem to them, even though most of them might not have that problem. So I think the idea of design thinking is that you are actually able to empathize with your users. You are able to build a very good level of a deep level of understanding on that on a particular idea that that work the way your users expect them to work. You are also able to come up with meaningful prototypes. You are able to ideate through the program from the start to the end. You are able to envision how this app is expected to work at the end of the day. You are able to define user needs and problems, and also I think you are able to finally test your prototypes even before they start development. I think what I just explained right now is more like the flow, right? It's more like the design process when following the design thinking approach. I also made mention of saying your app being something that is viable, the viability, right? Or maybe something that is actually desired by the users. So imagine you have like an idea to build an app that actually solves like four basic problems, like four different problems, only to discover that the system you are trying to develop, of course, with the four features, only two of those features are actually important to like 80% of the users that you interacted with. So, of course, you're trying to build an application. You organize like maybe a call with, let's just assume 30 users, just an assumption, or 30 potential users, right? People you believe are your potential customers. So first off, you need to understand, who you're targeting to use that application. So imagine a payment solution, of course, for international transaction. It means you should be focusing on people who do more of probably remote work, or probably run their own business and they have international clients. So I think those are kind of like your primary users. Then maybe your secondary users might be family men and women, of course, that are trying to send some cash across to their children, or maybe the children are trying to send some cash across to their parents. So definitely I think that should be like a target audience as well, but probably your secondary audience, because looking at the market, I think you have more remote workers and average guys, maybe between the age of 20 to like 24, 25, 26. So I think you also need to focus very well on this is part of the user audience you're targeting. Of course, you need to understand their age group, their demography. Is your app targeting just Africans, or maybe targeting like a general, like a global audience? So you have to be very specific, and you have to also be very specific about the age groups. So I think that is it for talking about viability, and I think you have to also ask yourself, the set of features you've pointed out already, does it really align with what the users want? I'm repeating this again because it's a very important part. You don't want to end up having an app that is only important to like that some features are only important to like 10% of your users. I think it's better to actually strip that feature away for the meantime, and probably focus on the most important things, right? So when I say technical feasibility, and I hope you all can see my screen, I hope you can still see what I have. I'm not really typing anything much, but I'm just talking about design thinking for now. So when I talk about technical feasibility, I think what that is actually describing is describing the technical angle, though you're not going to be doing anything like really technical when it comes to like implementation of what you've built so far, which is of course after the user testing and validation of the idea. I think for the technical feasibility, as a UX, which is a user experience researcher, or a UI UX person, you should actually consider the fact that the features that you've outlined on these applications, what is the engineering time, regarding the duration to actually implement some of these things. Now it might look like you are already trying to jump into project management and all that, but you need to at least have a reasonable idea so that you don't come up with unrealistic designs or realistic features for a product that you want to finish up within a short period of time. So looking at the sweet spot here, I think we can definitely say, I'm going to open up Miro. For those of you that have not tried it, you can watch the previous video and you can download this offline or use it in your browser. I have it offline for now. I'm just going to open a simple file here. Which file should I use? Untitled. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to take this off. Okay, so I think what we should be looking out for here in the end. So in the end, you basically have like, I'm just going to do a very simple set here. So of course, you might have seen this on like so many designs, right? So you might have seen something like this. Here you're talking about durability. Here you're talking about the viability. So how much is your app really desired by the users? And if yes, what is the percentage of desirability? So I think it's good that you are able to make a couple of assumptions from or you're able to come up with a metric, right? From your test so far with the users. Then also I think we should be looking at I think feasibility. Yeah, I don't want to bring in the technical feasibility, the technical feasibility. I don't want to write technical feasibility because feasibility can actually cover even design feasibility, right? It depends on the stage of your current stage in the UX in your UX research. So I think this is it. So you have like everything actually needs to come together before you can finally say you've reached a consensus and you can start working on this solution, right? So this is very basic. This is very simple. If you have any issues or any questions, please go ahead and drop your questions. So now we are still talking about the UX process, and this is one of the main process that you have to understand, which is design thinking. Design thinking. All right. So of course we have a lot of other design processes. I think it's good to understand that this is what we are going to be following, this particular process for the meantime. But with time, you will definitely learn a couple of others. I think one of the most adopted patterns I've seen in some companies recently is what they call the double diamond pattern, where they follow a rule. I think they follow a rule. So let's see if I can remember how that works. So let's see flow charts. Yeah, so I think Miro should have. I'm not sure. So let's see. So I'm just trying to look for. Yeah, I don't think they do. So I'm just going to draw this. I know it looks bad actually. Or can I search? Oh yeah, okay, found it. This was actually bad. Okay, so I think for the double diamond UX process, I think what we should be looking at here in terms of how they go through implementing a very good level of UX. What they do is discover, and I'm going to just give you a very brief explanation. We're not going to talk so much about this. Define. I'm going to explain this as well with like a real application, how you go about thinking or implementing this. Develop and deliver, right? I think that's correct. Yes, yeah, correct. Deliver. Okay, just to verify, discover, define. Okay, so basically, it's also similar with this. The only thing we didn't talk about here is ideation, but of course there is always an ideation before you even get to trying to understand some of these things here, like the desirability, viability, and feasibility. So when following this approach, it's fine if you choose to follow this approach or this approach. I mean, it's all fine. The major thing is you need to understand that there's no single pattern or process that you should that you follow to accomplish the end goal. As a matter of fact, we have like a lot of design UX processes that can give you a very good result at the end of the day. So for this approach, first off, you have to discover a very solid idea, of course, or what you think you're trying to solve, or maybe you have like your interviews with your customers, for example. So let's assume you're not just trying to create a new design from scratch, right? So you work in a company, for example, you're working at TopSkill, you're working at Paystack or Flutterwave, companies like this, and one day you're called for a board meeting, and this company is thinking of coming up with a new application, maybe like a mobile application, and so the proposal here is the company wants to build a mobile application that would solve a problem such as recycling, for example, and you are asked to handle the UX process. If you want to go with the double diamond pattern, I think the first thing you have to look at is, okay, what exactly is the problem, and what are we really calling the problem? What is the problem? What is the problem that is very obvious to us, maybe not to the entire public, of course, maybe just to us. So when you've discovered that problem, you really understand the problem, or you understand the details of the problem, then the next step is to actually define, clearly define this problem, and also try to, develop a solution, right? That's part of the design stage. So develop the solution, try to understand the solution yourself as a team or as a designer. Then you approach the users, you conduct your interviews, you get feedback, and you also iterate on your problem, on your initial discovery or the initial solution you've come up with, and you're just trying to. This is part of the idea testing, right? You get an idea, you contact like a pool of users, you set up calls, set up meetings, you ask questions, they give you feedback. You work with this feedback, and also maybe you discover one or two things from the feedback. You then go back and redefine what you have down as your problem statement, and probably the solution. So you are able to craft a new solution that is probably better than the previous solution you came up with. You go ahead and conduct another testing, maybe. And you actually conduct like this test with the user, and you finally have a plan and a solution that you think is perfect. Then the next step is, of course, to start your development, right? So it moves like this, right? So you start your development, and at the end of the day, you're expected to deliver. So during the development stage, there are other things to also consider. As a designer, you're not just, of course, we call this user experience, but you need to also understand that it depends on the product you're building. You just imagine you're building a product for developers. Then your developers are currently your users, right? So you have to make sure you come up with like a very solid solution that can solve problems for both technical and non-technical people at the end of the day. Okay, so that is a quick explanation of the double diamond UX process pattern. So we have other patterns such as experimenting and optimizing, working with design sprints. Especially the design sprint pattern. I know there are lots of companies that choose to go this route, and I think working with design sprints is actually a good pattern when you have a large or probably a medium, a very good amount of in-house designers or researchers. Because then they are kind of ideating and brainstorming together, right? We're not going to talk about that because most times, as a beginner at this current level, you definitely find yourself doing some of this research and design by yourself, maybe for now. But going forward, you need to also understand that the design sprint approach is very approachable and is very good because you have a lot of designers working together to accomplish the same goal. Okay, so let's quickly jump into the research itself. Now, there are a couple of patterns you can apply when it comes to research. a couple of patterns such as A/B testing, and I'm going to take down some of these things. So first off, we've discussed about, sorry, that was the wrong application. Yeah. So we discussed about the design thinking pattern, also double diamond, and this is UX process. Okay. So I said we also have design sprints. We also have experiments and optimize. So you can do a quick Google search, for UX processes, and you definitely see some of this. You don't need to apply all on a single project. You can kick off with this. I think for design sprint, I explained use cases. And also one thing you need to know is design sprints can be used also on like an existing solution. So when you already have a solution, definitely you can be conducting design sprints to probably add more features, right? You don't want to always conduct new research all the time. Maybe you're just trying to optimize on something. You can be having design sprint sessions, with the researchers on the team, and also the developers, right? You can have them together within during your sessions, just to always come to a very reasonable consensus on the timeline to develop something based on your findings and based on your design or your plan, or the plan of your the plan you have for your design. So it's always good to bring in several technical talents, from design to research, and any other talent you have, even down to the marketing talent. They can actually give you a couple of ideas on what or on how they would approach it from their own perspective, right? And you then try to see how it fits into your own mental model. So let's talk about the research process. Okay, then probably after this we'll talk about information architecture. Let's just have this picture. Let's just take that down. Okay, so for the research process, I'm going to push that down a little bit so can focus on this. Okay, so for the research process, I think I would first start by talking about the usability testing. This is one of the most this is one of the best option I've seen a lot of design teams and designers approach when they are working on something new for the first time. So of course, just with the term usability, you're trying to test you're trying to test how easy it is for the users or the potential users to try out your new, probably your new prototype, or maybe the mock-ups you've put together. Sometimes it can even be just a wireframe, but I think it depends on. There are some users that don't necessarily need to test the wireframe because they might not really understand how things work when testing something you have just on paper. Not all users, some users are always keen to seeing that design, right? Even if it's not really functional, at least something should move around. They should be able to get like the feeling, right? This is what happens by the time I use the real app. Okay, so usability testing is a method where you're able to test what the end product would look like, or maybe the prototype, or maybe just the mock-up with the participants, right? And so this is quite an interesting use case, and I'm going to show you an example. I'm going to quickly bring out Figma. Let's see. Hope it does not take the whole day to load. Okay, so I have a couple of designs here, but I'm going to show you with something that I think this is something I can just share. So yeah, so this is quite straightforward. Let's see if I can go back here and pull out a simple design, probably like a mobile solution or something. Okay, so I have this kit right here. Let's go with this Spotify redesign. So this is something I got from the community. I just loved it, and I was going through this. So of course, most of you have used Spotify, right? And let's just assume that this is like a new version of Spotify, designed by this awesome designer that I found on the community. It's called Mora. I can't pronounce this, so I'm going to stick to Mora. Okay, so let's go to. So this is what he came up with as a redesign of Spotify. So looking at this, when I saw this for the first time, of course, I was a little bit confused about some of these things. I was just trying to, understand, and I was just trying to take a look at this. I was asking myself if it's possible to identify every single item here without putting in the context, like proper context. If you're very used to an application, of course, when you see this, you know that this is kind of like the home button, of course, taking you home. But what is this? Because for me, I think this is kind of like navigation, right? Navigation sign taking us to. I don't know. I don't know where this is going to take me to. This looks like recording, so it depends on the user, right? I'm not. I won't say I'm a music person. I love music, but that will not make me understand this, because looking at this, I feel it's kind of like podcast or recording, right? Looking at this, I strongly believe this is library, right? This is my library, maybe, because I think I know this icon very well. Then this is like a favorite, right? But every user would not take this as favorite. You need to also understand that. I remember a quick example where a team of designers built a mobile app with this heart or this symbol or icon on the app. And they asked they had like an interview session with the farmers, and they asked the farmers, what is this for? And the farmers said they believe that anytime they see this on the card containing the food, like the food item, they believe that the food is healthy, right? So they believe that this means healthy. So just saying, let's assume this is a food item, and maybe you have this on the item. I can't put this now because this is actually using auto layout. Let's just forget about that. But it means that the food is healthy, which is wrong. But of course, that's the way they saw it, right? They're trying to look at it from their own angle as farmers. As someone that is addicted to social media, or someone that understands social media, you will definitely understand that this is and not healthy. Okay, so I love the design, but from the aspect of usability, well, I might understand every other thing. The design might look better than the current design, but getting here, there's no proper context, I would say, and there's no way to kind of like expand, to get like a better meaning of these things if you're just using this for the first time. I like the use of space here, the way this was moved down here, totally different from what the app currently looks like, and it's beautiful. But at the end of the day, the beauty of your design is just one part. Sometimes your design is even better off looking, simple. Okay, so that is it for usability testing. Is the kind of research you do, focusing on testing how usable your solution is, and your solution can be mobile or web, or a new system or a new solution running on even your microwave, or maybe on your smart TV or your smart home refrigerator. So it depends on what you're building. All right, so the next one I should be looking at right now is A/B testing. Okay, so A/B testing, I think a lot of guys call it. Is it the okay? Yeah, I think it's the split testing. Yes, yeah. So a lot of folks call it split testing as well. I think that's another name for it, split testing. And A/B testing is actually a way to compare, variants of different, designs. So another quick example, just so you understand what I mean. So let's assume we have a new. I think is that the best way? I think I used to have a design where I came up with multiple heading options, right? And I would always ask my teammates, which do you prefer, this or this? Do you prefer this or this? Do you prefer having the heading text in the center of the header, or you prefer having the heading text on the side with the picture in the center, with the picture on the right? So maybe you have the text on the left, the picture on the right. So I don't think I still, oh yeah, so I do. Okay, so this is a design, the same design, two landing pages. So let's forget about the mobile option. We have two landing pages here with the same content. The difference is the background. The background here is quite different. So this is kind of like dark. This is a little bit brighter. And on the header, even though we have the same text, the images are positioned in different ways. So basically, I can use this to conduct a very simple A/B test. And I have the same option, and all I need to do, of course, your color should at least match the brand. So as you can see, this is just a random design. There's no specific brand, or although we have a style guide, but we're not really following like a specific. And of course, our color, we did not follow the entire color, as you can see. Rather, we just we had to stick to this set of colors, and that is because we are working with two variants for now. So I think the major question here, when it comes to the A/B testing, we have this option, we have this option. Which do you prefer, right? And then you have people with different views and different options. And at the end of the day, you can actually try to see reasons. You must not always agree with the users, of course. When I mean you must not always agree with the users, I mean it's always good to have a lot of people vote on something, or give you suggestions, and then you work based on either based on the people giving you these suggestions, and you believe that they are the right end customers at the end of the day, or you work with a poll, right? And you try to take the highest number of votes or something. So I remember giving an example to my teammates. I think that this should be like last month, and I was asking them, imagine you are called by a big company, maybe like Nestle Nigeria, for example. They already have like an internal ERP solution, and they want you to just implement like as a designer, right? They want to be able to get notification on a specific kind of like a specific task, and they want like maybe 10 of their admin staffs to be able to get this notification, and you are tasked with implementing this notification, this pop-up message on the existing dashboard. And I was asking them, okay, now you've not seen the dashboard, we don't have a sample dashboard, but the dashboard can work on the left, on the right, at the top, bottom, or probably in the center. Which would you go for? And the designer started coming up with different answers. Some are saying on the right because the human mind is that. Some said left, some said bottom, some said center. And so for me, I think the best option when you have such use case, you already have people that have been working in the company for years, using the same solution. So I think the best thing you should do is probably call for a meeting, right? Call for a meeting with the guys using this admin panel or the admin section, and ask them, where would you prefer we put this? Then you take a vote, right? And I think that would be the best approach to implementing this, instead of thinking rationally, or instead of trying to apply some deep level of psychology, because you believe the human eyes are better at looking at one spot and not the other spot. So I think, let me take down the volume because of this sound. Okay, so I think it's always good, to ask and hear from your users before you try to apply any kind of scientific principle that you were taught. Users' decision matter a lot, anyways. Okay, so that is it for A/B testing. Let's take this off. All right. So quite simple. Let's talk about card sorting. Okay, so the way this works, of course, card sorting, it's something you can do as an independent designer or researcher, but I think it makes more sense and it's more effective when you have like multiple people on a team trying to figure out what works best for a specific feature or solution. And so it's a method basically used to test information architecture on your website or your mobile app to improve to improve the experience of the user regarding the flow or navigation and also the structure. Okay, so when conducting a card sorting workshop, as it is mostly called, what happens is you write down like a bunch of detail. So imagine you have a simple app you're trying to implement. So let's go ahead and just bring in simple mobile. Okay, delete one of this. So I don't know why this is looking so tiny. Maybe I would have to come on this. It's not. Are these icons? Okay, yeah. So we have like an iPhone, for example. This is an iPhone frame. So we are currently working on a specific application, and we are thinking of the best position to put in like a bunch of text, right? So you put this, you put the components, you design the components on cards. So basically, at this point, I think we're still working on kind of like the wireframe, but fortunately, we are trying to just streamline the whole thing to just the information on this, and that should be displayed on this screen. So I don't have much. I don't want us to waste much time here. Let me expand this. Yeah, so I can have a better view here. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to just quickly bring in like a mobile. Ah, come on! I was expecting you to give me a mobile screen or something. Okay. Let me use this template because there are a bunch of components here I think I can make use of. So, for example, this image. Okay, so let's assume on this application, we're expected to have like an image, maybe it's kind of like a news website or something. This is a wireframe. So you have to put in these components as cards, right? And the theme, yeah, I think I also like this. So this should work. This should work for what I want. Control C and Control V. This is kind of like the most important thing that was invented probably after sliced bread. So we have this option, we have this. Okay, so you have this on separate cards, and just a quick assumption, this is part of, so this is together, right? This is kind of like a component of its own on a card, and this is another component. So card sorting, we're trying to figure out, is this better here? Placing this, using cards, right? So placing this using cards. So is it better to have this here, or should we instead do this? So you can easily see the way things are structured, right? Which is better for the user. So I mean, you can also like position these items and show this to the user. Which do you prefer? Do you prefer to have like these action buttons first before you see the latest news or the latest image? Probably news, of course, of the day, and the users might say, okay, this is more important to me, right, than the news. The news can come later, or some users might say, oh yeah, the news should come first before this. So I think you might probably end up taking a poll and trying to understand what the users prefer in terms of like the votes at the end of the day. Which do you think is better? So for those of you that probably use the software like Microsoft Office 27, if you remember the ribbon problem, the Microsoft ribbon issue that a lot of people had, and they were asking why would Microsoft, just change the whole interface in version 10. I think that was like Office 2010. I can't really remember. Maybe I might be wrong with the versions here. And the thing is, Microsoft, I think they released a note talking about the fact that they conducted user research and testing, and like over 90% of the people that participated in the test preferred that it looked this way, which is the new way. But they were surprised why a lot of people from Reddit communities and a lot of other forums complained about the fact that they just made unnecessary adjustments even without informing the customer. So I think yeah. So just like a quick assumption, that is user testing, of course. I strongly believe that they definitely would have done the test, because of course a company at that scale would not just launch something randomly. So definitely they must have done the test. Okay, so back to user testing, back to card sorting. Sorry, I believe you understand what card sorting is. You have your components on cards, and you're just doing random tests because you are trying to structure your content or your information the best way possible. So the next one we should be looking at right now is having focused groups. So we call it focus groups. And of course, focus groups are found in a lot of fields, not even in entrepreneurship generally. So not just design, but it happens to be a good way to test um, bringing in new features into your application. So yeah, so I think basically is a pattern used in testing, like the feedback, right? The feedback from the users. Of course, you don't want to be conducting research every time, as I said earlier. So maybe you can have a focus group of like maybe 100 customers or 200 customers, and before you release anything, you always share with them, and then they give you feedback first before you try to before you go ahead with the implementation. So a lot of companies have focus groups on design, engineering, architecture, and some other areas, some other fields. So it's a very good option to look into. We also have the field studies, right? And yeah, there are some apps I'm going to recommend to you at the end of the day. Wonderful apps. So we have field study, and basically this is just a way to test your product with real users. So you already have like a product, for example, and you just from the team you just decide to go out and ask real users, real people using your application that you are aware of, just to give you feedback on the current application, or maybe like a new feature you guys are trying to add to the application. You hear their honest feedback, and you then go ahead to implement the feature or the new solution that you're working on. Okay, so survey, of course, everyone knows this. So surveys, you just have to print out like a bunch of questions, or you just go out there to ask questions, not necessarily to your users, but the general public, right? And it can be the general public, that's what I mean, or you can decide to limit it to your users, or maybe your audience, a specific audience. But the way it works is, just like the traditional survey pattern, there's a bunch of questions, just come in and answer. Not necessarily like a one-on-one person communication, right? So it can be like a form you hosted online using Google Forms or type forms. So yeah, so I think that is it for some of the research patterns. Before we dive deep down into research, we're going to do that for like 30 minutes. I don't know if we can have like a practical call section here. So I have Ella, I have Amaka. So if you want to volunteer to also participate in a quick conversation, just to kind of like model what this really looks like, you can go ahead and indicate on the chat. So we're going to like have a very simple call. We cannot start design sprints. You need to understand that, because you don't just start design sprints. And we are not really like jumping into these stuffs right now. You've learned about this already, design thinking. We're going to do the practicals, and the practicals does not necessarily mean we're going to jump into coming up with wireframes and all that. So we're going to start up with having a simple what a user session should look like, the kind of questions that I feel or I think is right to ask. So please go ahead and indicate if you want us to do that with you on the call as our sample user. All right, so some of the other things I think we're going to explain to you in a much, probably in some other classes, is going to be, laws, several principles, that you should apply when working on, when trying to implement a new project. Atomic design, Higgs law, as I mentioned earlier. We have a lot of UX laws, like really lots and lots of UX laws. Aesthetic usability effects, the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. There's so many rules that definitely it's pointless teaching you right now. It's something that you have to learn, and you have to do your research, search on Google and all that. Then always come back to us and ask questions if there's something you do not understand. All right, so let's quickly move over to Miro. I'm going to leave this on the side. Maybe I'm going to make use of this. So who is currently available on the chat? Let me see. No one. So I need a response from you guys. It has to be like an interactive session with you. Okay. I hope your background noise is not so bad. Okay, so let's see what we can do right now. Let's quickly move in here. So I'm going to give an assumption. I want someone to drop an assumption for us. So just give me an assumption from those of you that are responding that you are ready for this session. Give us an assumption and tell me what you would like us to build. Right? Just a simple assumption, because I think what you would say is probably something you understand. Right? It's something you understand. So let's work with what you understand better. And I don't need to be the one bringing up the example. So let's assume we're trying to build. Let's assume you have a problem with something specific. Let's try to just do a quick walkthrough on how we would go about conducting our research. Yeah. So I'm waiting for you. Okay, so you're talking about a crypto P2P app, peer-to-peer payment app. So I think that is not a bad idea, but it depends on the audience we have here, because we want to come up with something that I think can actually, I think the guys we have here would really understand. Movie streaming is a very good app. So of course, crypto peer-to-peer app, I mean, that's good. But I think that is quite off, from a session like this. So someone said a power company app for payments. Yeah, so looking at something like this, I'm already thinking about what might go in from a design angle and also from an engineering angle, because you always have to, think of something realistic and something that can be implemented. That does not mean you should not, think out of the box. It's good to think. It's good to think about several ways to solve this problem. But one of the things I need to also make you understand as a UX and UI designer is you do not necessarily need to build an app, right? So when you say movie streaming app, you're already thinking of the app, or maybe probably like the website. You need to also understand that as UX people, you build experience. I said that earlier. We're going to build an app, no issues, but I just want you to understand this. So let me go back to, let's just use my notes here, right? So for example, I've actually been in a position where I was asked, what do we need to solve this problem? Do we need an app? Do we need a website? Simple website? Do we need like probably a desktop solution, which is also referred to as an app? Or do we just need to make API calls, right? And this might seem weird. I mean, what do I mean by API calls? This is part of the experience. As I said earlier, building API calls is you designing an experience for developers and for engineers. Sometimes you do not need to build an app to solve problems that are related to integrations, probably integrating systems. The fact that you are not working on a specific UI does not mean you should not participate in this. It's an opportunity for you to learn and also to do your job as a researcher. So, for example, you want to communicate with, you want to build a solution that would inform you if you've watched a Netflix. I almost said Nestle. If you've watched a Netflix movie in the past. I mean, these are actually realistic. I don't know how realistic it is. I don't really use Netflix, but I believe a lot of you that watch Netflix. So maybe there's some sort of history showing you if you've watched something or not. So maybe that might not really be a problem, right? So, but let's just assume that Netflix currently do not show you like the history of what you've watched and what you've not watched. And because you've watched like a ton of movies, you find it difficult to track your watch time, right? Or maybe what you've watched. So in this case, probably you might end up just building a very simple plugin or a simple API, and all you are doing is integration. And once that movie shows up, probably the API sends you an SMS or an email telling you you've watched this. It's not looking so realistic, but it makes sense because you might not be able to implement this on Netflix. Of course, you don't work with Netflix. Neither might that be like a viable option for a very large audience. So maybe it's just your specific problem, right? So you need to ask yourself: do I need an app? Must you create an app for every problem you have? How would it scale at the end of the day, right? How would it scale? How would you manage this? And imagine you have like 100 different problems. Are you going to have 100 different apps to solve this to solve your problems? Are you building a website? Is it a desktop solution or API calls? Always think of this properly. We are still going to get to the information architecture, as I mentioned earlier. I want us to do this when we start working on this solution. So for now, I think I am going to go with a power company app for payments. Yeah, so I think the movie streaming app is quite. Let's try to also work with our timing. Okay, so let's go with the power company app. So Oladipo, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Please, someone help me unmute Oladipo. Just make sure you don't have a noisy background uh, to avoid noise on the call. Please, someone go ahead and unmute Oladipo. Have you done that? Oladipo, can you hear me? Okay, so I think I have to do that myself. Okay. Okay, so I hope that was you, Oladipo. Can you hear me
All right,
now?
I'm here. Yes, I can.
Oh yeah, I remember this was yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you. Good evening.
Okay.
How are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you too?
Very fine, thank you. Okay, so Oladipo, what we are going to do right now, we are going to let me go ahead and open up Miro, and I hope you can stay focused while also participating in this. Okay, so if you have Miro open, you can see we have different templates. I've explained this earlier. So you have like the project kickoff, but let's move down to research and design. And then you see we have things like customer touch points, map, we have the app wireframe. This, I selected a category, which is, of course, our use case right now. So you have a lot of like templates, right? But we're going to work with this. This is something we're also going to touch later on, strategy and planning. But for now, research. Okay, so we can probably start from brainstorming first, even before reaching out to Oladipo. Then we can come back to brainstorming afterwards, after we've gathered a couple of details from Oladipo. So let's go ahead and get a very simple. So Oladipo, the reason why I said we're going to do brainstorming first is because I believe you probably have experience with this industry that you pointed out. But if you don't, then we can do a couple of googling, to understand what happens with. Let me see what happens with or what a power company app would look like. I currently do not have experience with such. So I'm going to bring in some templates for the meantime. Some templates I'm going to use for this so that I won't have to always come in here. Now, where I am going to start from, so that's the question. The main question is, where am I going to start from trying to understand this, from trying to solve this problem? We're going to do a couple of things, using the user persona here. We don't necessarily need to have every single field. We don't necessarily need to solve every single field, but it's great because you can use this to understand, for example, the persona, which means we're trying to gather the detail of the user. Who is our user? Oladipo, age group, what do you do? Um, I mean, a couple of details here about Oladipo. The next, the reason to use the product. So, we understand you have a problem when it comes to let me put this in here. So, but I think we need to first understand, what this kind of solution looks like. All right. So this is not supposed to be here. Okay. So let me first do like a quick power company app, for example. Oh, okay. PHC and wow. Oh, so I mean, probably I've been living in the cave for a very long time. I never had an idea that PHCN has an app. I'm wondering what the app does right now. I'm going to verify. So let's see. Okay, so of course, you create an account, you sign in. Okay, what else? This is already looking cluttered even from the first. I don't know what is happening here. So I'm assuming that this is like the user's bill. So probably this is connected to your meter, okay? And it's giving you like a spending breakdown. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Oladipo. So this is giving you like a
Yes, that's it.
spend, okay, on
That's
your
how
meter.
much this month.
Okay. So this is how much you've spent. Okay, so this is from like an existing application. You can select your state. Okay, so why are we selecting our state here? Um, um,
Because they power a lot of states, and you have to choose which they have different distribution companies. So you have to choose the state, so they will direct it to the distribution company.
oh, okay. So which means if I want to pay for this, I have to go to the. I have to get like some sort of ID or credential from the distribution company around my area in my states. Is that
Yeah.
what you mean? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Not bad. Not bad. Okay, so it's more like your location. So after selecting your state, probably we would also be asked to select like a local government or something, right?
Not
Probably.
not necessarily local government. If you select your state, then they already programmed it that for every state, because there are power companies like Ibadan Electric that supply Kwara State, Ibadan, Osun State, and some other places. Abuja supplies Abuja, Nasarawa, and some other places. That is how it is. So once you click on the states, then it will automatically take you to maybe Abuja Electric or Ibadan Electric Distribution Company.
Okay. So that's great. All right. So at least now I understand. What the concept of this kind of application. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that would lead us to quickly come up with the idea on how to implement something like this or even better than this. I feel this is too cluttered. So we're going to come up with something better, anyways. But I mean, this is a good one. If it works, then it's great. Yeah, so let's go ahead and back here. I would always start from the user persona if I am trying to, of course, conduct the research. So looking at what we have here from what we've documented so far, what we are doing right now, is actually we're trying to conduct research first, right? We are not really following like the design process yet, right? But looking at it, we're not following the UX. We're not following like a specific pattern here. We are actually conducting research, but everything works together at the end of the day because, of course, we have ideation and all that from here as well. But right now, we're going to focus just on research, and yeah, we don't have an app yet that can undergo usability testing. But even if we have like a wireframe, definitely it can undergo usability testing. So let's just start with trying to understand this use case properly from Oladipo's perspective. So yes, Oladipo, let's get to know you. But before that, just give me 1 minute to bring in the last option I have here. I'm not going to use a lot of tools. I'm just going to focus on this, and we're going to assume that we'll use this at the end of the day, just to come up with something real quick, like a wire from here. So this is going to be okay, kind of like the user stories, which I can also do here. But 1 minute, I definitely made the touch points. That is after this is what we would use after we have something like our wireframe. So while the user is going from one screen to another, we are recording the touch points and the pain points they have while using the application. So I'm just trying to show you like a bunch of templates that you can reuse, or you can even create your own from scratch, of course. So um, what we have right now, the user persona. Then we also have this option for user activity, which we can also use as a user flow as well. We can also use this to outline the user flow. Um, so I think, yeah, brainwriting, I called, this is the user journey map. And of course, this is like way too complex. You don't really need something very complex. Or you don't need something as complex as this. Now, what is the user flow? So when you already have like your screen, so this is an example. When you already have your screen, the user flow, you are trying to outline, how the user would move from one point to another to perform a specific action. So let's give an assumption for our application, what we're going to work on. Imagine we have been able to implement like a wireframe, or even before implementing the wireframe, we're saying, okay, for the user to be able to solve the problem of purchasing units. Of course, I expect someone should be able to purchase unit directly without going to your distribution branch, I guess. But a quick assumption for the user to be able to purchase the units on his or her meter, probably the first thing might be open the app, right? You have to open the app first, log in, or maybe you're already logged in, right? So maybe you first have an action for signing up, and the action for signing up would be open the app, um, read the prompts if you have some prompts like a wizard or something explaining a couple of things, and then next is click on sign up, and then you sign up. After signing up, verify the email, right? You verify that email, and after verifying the email, then you can now move on to the next action, because signing up is an action, right? Signing up is an action, logging in is an action. So during the login action, you have to start by, of course, opening the app again, because the app is not going to remain open all the time. Now you need to understand that you must not be very specific. It's good to be detailed, but the level of detail that I might go or I might try to adopt might not be the level of detail you might try to adopt. The level of detail that you might adopt at times might not also be the level of detail I will adopt. So there's nothing like saying this is the specific way it must be done. It's good that you do it well by pointing out these things, but you don't necessarily need to make it extremely detailed. If not, you might be adding things like power up your phone. Let's assume your phone is switched off. That is not important to us. So I think where you have to probably start from the point where you're opening the application, you're launching our application, which is part of our business here. So um, yeah, so signing up is an action, logging in is an action. Then probably the next action you have on your list might be to purchase units, right? And in order to purchase units, probably we'll have a button on the page, and we can say, okay, you click on meter, maybe like a menu item. You click on units and meters. And you click on that, and you click on another button, purchase units, and then it asks you to enter your credit card details. Then you are charged, and it asks you to enter like before you are charged, it asks you to enter like the amount of units you want to buy. So those are actions, and you have to outline every single thing one at a time. So as you can see, for example, we have registration, we have onboarding and first use, which is like the wizard I explained. We have another feature here, which is sharing. So the way this is outlined is, you are going from you are mentioning this item. For example, registration would come in here, the process. Onboarding would come in here, the process. Now during registration, the actions, right? That's what you put in here. Then what are the needs of the user? So maybe you are registering with email and password, for example. Remember what I call this? The user journey map. This is very important. That's why you have to pay attention. So at first I said the actions, right? And this is also explained here. What does the customer do? What information do they look for? And what is their context? Okay, so you outline all these things here. Then the needs and pains. So while they are registering, maybe they are using email and password, but the customer says something like, "Oh, why don't we just probably put in like a social authentication? Maybe I can authenticate. I can create a new account, or I can sign in with my Google account." or Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, right? These are suggestions, right? These are suggestions, and you can categorize this as part of the need. So, what does the customer want to achieve or avoid? So, they're trying to achieve something by signing up, and what is the best way to do this? So, we have to take some of these things down, because the point is we have a tip here, right? The point is you're trying to reduce ambiguity, right? By using the first person narrator. So you are trying to reduce ambiguity, you are trying to reduce the stress, and of course, if they are, you might not be stressed as the designer or the researcher, but they might be stressed, and of course, they are the user. So you are trying to reduce their stress, right? So you have to take these things down. And just because one user said you should take off authentication because it's not needed, does not mean you will take off authentication. You have to listen to, a couple of users, right? Okay, so these are the needs and the plans, comes in here. That's under the registration. So which means every single feature, these are features, right? Registration is a feature, onboarding is a feature, this is another feature. And when you're testing this feature for the registration, what are the needs and pains of this particular user? What are the needs and pains during the onboarding section, which is when they're navigating through the wizard? You take that down as well. Now, what are the touch points? So what areas do they interact with? So touch points, I think like a tip here is basically talking about, the input fields, the buttons, So when I'm trying to register, for example, what is the touch point? I would say the first touch point I have here is like the sign up button, right? Sign up button. The second touch point are probably the input fields, right? And the third touch point is probably, the sign up button again. So maybe you have like a sign up button initially from the home page, right? Or after the wizard, you click on that, it takes you to the sign up page, put in your details on the input fields, email, password, click on sign up. So those are kind of like touch points. So what part of the service do they interact with? And the reason why they call this service is because you need to understand that it is not always an app. So I gave an example with an app right now, but it is not always an app. It can be a process. For example, you're trying to reach the manager in his office. We want to design a smooth experience for all our customers to make sure that they are able to, they are able to submit a request or a proposal to meet with the manager, right? And a smooth experience here. What are the touch points? Touch points are probably like the security checkpoints down to the receptionist, because of course these are the people, or these are the part of the services they interact with. The receptionist, the security, they are already part of that service. The service is probably like an office space or office service, and there are points that the users or the customers have to reach and interact with before they get down to meeting the manager. So you see, the concept of UX can be applied in a lot of areas, not just software specific like mobile app or website, but also in your day-to-day or your real life experience as well. So now the final option here is the customer feeling. Well, I personally don't indicate these items with emojis, but these are just easy ways for you to avoid the stress. So you try to express feelings with emojis, like this point is saying the customer was kind of not sure of what is going on here. The customer is blown away. I mean, this is amazing. The customer loved this. At this point, the customer was completely confused. He has no idea what's happening on the onboarding screen. Probably the information there was not properly architected. Maybe it was not well explained. It was not well explained in terms of the details. And when it comes to sharing, this is a feature. The user was so happy with this feature. This is probably like a magical feature to them. They really enjoyed using it. So the next thing now, what happens in the backstage, which is not something you communicate with the user about, but basically, what are the opportunities when it comes to the sign-up feature, the discovery feature, how they start their journey, what are the opportunities, how do you think we can improve, right? We have the registration section. How do you think we can improve this section? What do you think we can do better? So it's called backstage, of course, because this is what you present back to your business or your company or yourself if you are a single man team. Then it gets to I think several sections, several features. What are the opportunities, and then finally for the process ownership, who is in lead on this? So when they say who is in lead on this, is the user doing this by himself, or you are directing the user as the researcher? So you have to always specify, right? So maybe you have like 2-3 researchers with one user, so you have to specify who is actually in lead. Is it the researcher or the user? So You might be telling yourself this is not so important, but I think this is very important because if you are the one in charge of this and feature and the user love this, it means there's a little bit of a problem. Because the problem here is, what about the user that will use this application when you are not here to assist? How do they figure this out? How do they fix this problem? So these are some of the things you have to consider. So we are going to work with these options. There are so many other options, but I think the first one I'm just going to do right now is the brainstorming section, and this brainstorming section is going to be with Oladipo. Hope I'm correct. Hope I'm correct. Okay, yeah. So just a quick one again. We have like the site map. Yeah, so we have the site map. The site map is basically used when you're building like websites, but of course, I've seen a lot of people use it for mobile development as well. So you try to like connect, the pages leading to the next page, leading to the next page. How is the interaction like? You understand? If they click on like the CTA or the call to action button, where is it taking them to? You can outline this using a sitemap. The storyboard creates a visual guide to different scenarios, collaboratively and creatively. Okay, so I think the storyboard is basically used by the teams, working on a project to work on something together. To especially when it comes to creating different scenarios on how the user might probably use this. So I think we have a lot of assumptions going in here, but it's good. Because of course, I think it can also be used for brainstorming. Okay, so we have the brand sprint. We don't need this. The user persona, which I already added. We have the user story map. User story map is not the user journey map. So you see there are lots of things here, and I tell you, this is not everything that you can apply to your UX research. But basically, it's similar to okay, yeah, I already have it there. Okay, so the user story map. At the end of the day, I think you are actually trying to, which you need to do, right? The user needs to tell you, like, okay, what is that? What is it really that that they want, right? What are they trying to achieve? So first off, you start from task. So what are you trying to achieve? We're going to make use of this. Let me take it off from here, so we can just outline this, arrange things properly. So I'm going to structure this properly. Then we can kick off with this. And I'm going to put like a name on each of them so that you guys can remember them as well. So let's create like this level of spacing. The other tools you can also use for this, have that in mind. You need to be smart to understand that this is not the only tool we have for doing research. A lot of guys use Whimsical, and of course, Whimsical is part of the timetable or your curriculum. You're going to definitely use Whimsical. I'm going to take this off for now, or maybe I can just drop it somewhere around here so that I share this link with you guys and you can preview at the end of the day. Let's also make sure we are monitoring the time. Oh my God, we only have like 7 minutes. All right, so a power company app. Let's quickly start off with a couple of questions, and I'll be taking those details down. Okay, so Oladipo, let's get to know you, please. I think it's fine if you don't give me like a very concrete detail about you. I can just take down Oladipo as a name. That works. And I really apologize because man, my battery is already very low, so I'm a little bit fast. All right, so Oladipo, let's Oladipo, are you currently tell me about yourself? Just tell me about yourself, and I'll ask you a couple of questions as well. Your location, or just it can be something made up. If you want to be, if you want to have a little bit of anonymity. All right, so location. Just tell me about yourself first.
I'm currently in Lagos and living with my family of
I can't hear you
five.
well. I don't know if you
Sorry,
can
can you
have.
hear me?
Okay, yeah, I think it's better. Okay.
Okay, all right. Apologies for that. So I said I'm a young graduate living with a family of five in Lagos State.
Living with a family of five. Okay. Okay, so I think this is fair. Okay, you can continue if you have more to say. Are you currently working or you just
Yes,
graduated?
I'm yeah, I'm
Okay.
currently working.
Okay, let me take that here.
And also, I have every of my siblings in a school in university.
Okay, as a what? Consultant or what? I don't want to be too forward. I want
Yes,
you to
as a
just tell me what to do, right?
yes, 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 as a consultant
Okay, in which industry?
for banking and finance.
Okay, okay. So I'll just put this down. I'll say Oladipo as so you made mention of your sister in school. Uh,
Yes,
okay, so I want to believe that this problem you're having with this application that you're asking us to work on is currently your problem and not someone else's problem that you heard of, right?
okay, yes, it is my problem.
Okay, so it's something that you've had challenges with. Okay, so let's try to wrap up on your person. I don't want to ask too much detail because, of course, this is just a demo session with others on the call. Ideally, when you're having this kind of sessions, it's a one-on-one session, not with a lot of people on the call, right? So you can ask for more details, or I think the person would even be open to even give you more details, right? Because, of course,
Yes,
they feel safe, right? Just discussing and disclosing these things with you. So there are a couple of details that you see on user personals, like the person's age, right? Because you need to understand why this is their problem. It's either Oladipo is living alone and is not the one in charge of is the one in charge of making these payments, right? Because if he's probably staying with his parents, then this might be more of the family, like the family might be experiencing this. I don't want to use the keyword family problem. That is very bad in Nigeria here. So this can be like something his family is having issues with when they try to make payments or probably recharge. But since this is his problem, the assumption here is Oladipo lives alone. So I'm going to take this down, but ideally you should be the one telling me. But I don't want to ask you. I hope you understand me.
yes, I understand you. I currently live with the family, and I'm in charge of charging this because
Oh,
this
you're in charge of the meter. Beautiful. Okay, I see.
yes,
In charge of the meter. Probably your sister is in charge of the TV. Let's stop there for now. Let's not bring up. Let's not bring out too much details. So I'm just
right.
making you guys understand. For those of you that are listening to me, when you are conducting like a one-on-one user research, trying to come up with a user personnel, you can have more details here. You can ask questions, and they always learn to use I think it's called the whys, right? The whys, like always ask why, right? Okay, and that is basically when you get to areas like the interests. So you see that we have a lot of things you can pick up here. The person's interest, maybe Oladipo
Sorry,
says,
okay,
sorry.
if you have more than one person you want to gather information for, you need to use more than one of these.
Yeah. If you have more than one person, then definitely you need to have more than one of these, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a research session, so you're going to gather like a lot of details. So this is just for one user, right? So now we just get to like the persona here. We're just getting to know who you are. We can have more questions about your personality. So I can ask you, tell me more about your personality. With the kind of things you like to do, the things you don't like to do. That those are your personalities. I don't want you to say any of that on this call because remember this is going on YouTube. But basically that's what you have in here. Your likes and your dislikes. A lot of them, right? Because the more details you have about someone, the more you understand their choices in terms of what they want to do, what they want to achieve, and all that. So that is what comes in here. We're not going to ask Oladipo that question, but have it at the back of your mind. You guys are going to conduct research, at least with your friends. Ask them a lot of questions, make them feel very comfortable. And the point here is do not give them options when you ask these questions, right? Do not give them options. So, for example, I will not ask Oladipo, what's your favorite meal? Is it rice or beans? I would not, because by asking him is it rice or beans, it's going to be like boxed into trying to make a decision between rice and beans. Meanwhile, his favorite meal might be noodles. Of course, that is not the case. not doesn't make any sense. But I'm very sure there are some people that would choose that as a favorite meal. But don't give them options, because giving them options, you are boxing them. Except the options are directly related to the application itself you are building. But it doesn't make sense to even give options, because probably their problem lies outside the boundary of what you are building. So allow them to be flexible enough. Maybe you're building a solution for either making payment or subscribing. Subscribing, or maybe checking the details of your meter. And Oladipo tells us that no, his current problem is actually how to even obtain a meter in the first place. You see, that's a different context, that's a different problem, and now that's a problem we never thought of. Hope you understand the point I'm trying to make. So I'm not going to ask Oladipo about his personalities. Let's just move on to his interests. So Oladipo, tell me what are your interests? Maybe things you can talk about, basically your interests.
I love watching football. Football from the diehard football fan.
Wrestling? Did you say wrestling?
Um, no, just football.
Okay. What else?
Yeah, I like video games also.
Oh, okay. So I'm just going to take them down like this. Video games. So let's stop the technology. So watching football, video games. What else?
I love researching too.
Researching. What kind of research specifically, Oladipo?
Yeah, anything that just catches my eye, anything that I see that is new, I just try to just know.
Okay, so that is quite broad, because when you say anything, it means researching is actually broad. You mean any field. You mean if you see something that catches your attention. And remember,
Yeah,
during the call, you are meant to ask. You are not meant to probe the person. It's not. It's an interview, of course, but it's not. It's not a debate, or it's not a section where you're trying to probe someone. Allow them speak freely, right? So when he says he loves to
right.
research, he loves to research in any field, you won't go ahead and ask him, what do you mean any field? You have to be specific. Is it in biology? Is it in physics? Is it in energy? Is it in technology? Just listen to them, right? Your job is to also make them feel very comfortable, because once you start probing people, they tend to mind what you've automatically created, like an hindrance to even gather meaningful information from them that can help you, build or scale your application, right? Okay, so Oladipo, we are currently on the skills section. Go ahead and just tell me like a couple of things that you feel or are your skills. And of course, you have to be very flexible here. Tell us. Feel free. This is something that can even sell your skill to the audience we have today. Okay.
Okay, Microsoft Office,
Okay, so Microsoft.
Excel. Yeah,
Okay, Excel. Okay.
there's, I have different skills too.
What did you say? Please, can you speak up?
I have a good communication skills. So I'm using Excel.
Okay. Yeah. Communication skills. Good communication skills. All right. So that's a
Good.
good soft skill. Okay. What else?
Um, AutoCAD also.
Okay, so AutoCAD. Okay, so I see that you are mentioning like a lot of technical skills, right? So I like the fact you're specific.
Yes.
I like the fact you're specific. Some users will not be so specific. Some users will tell you they are good with technical stuff. So as you can see, we have tech savviness, right? So probably when it comes to tech savviness, I can put in something like I can say Oladipo is a moderate or advanced, so it depends, right? Based on his response, um, or advanced computer user. Some users are actually literate when it comes to computing. Some have no idea about some of these things related to computing. So you can also document that, but try to document things in such a way that it does not bring out the feeling of being an insult, right? And of course, remember that your user is not seeing your screen. You are not meant to share your screen with the person you are interviewing, right? Except you want to show them like something that is very important, but I don't think you're going to get to that stage here. Instead, you can host like your prototype online and share with them, and they can easily, move through your prototype on their device, right? And they might even be the one sharing their screen, not you. So, because when you're documenting things, what you might have in mind to present might be good, but when you write it down, it might look or it might feel bad if you don't address some things like probably the way you write. So yeah, I said Oladipo is an advanced computer. So let's assume that Oladipo is not really good with computers. I can say Oladipo is not so good with computers, for example, and Oladipo might find this annoying. So there are lots of background I'm hearing from here, and I want to know what the problem is. Is someone finding it difficult to connect? Uh, and this is noisy. Um, okay, so let's go back. Okay, so what I mean is always try to make sure you use terms that describe someone in a good way and not make that person feel bad about. Of course, the person is not seeing your screen, but just try to be very ethical with your writing. So another report is good with computers. Okay. So you can say Oladipo is fast in technology, which means he understands some of the modern trends, right? Okay, so let's talk about the reasons to use the product. So the way it works here is you ask, you come up with the ask, right? It's like you're trying to sell something. So I can say Oladipo. So I mean, initially, I believe you already understand why you are here for this interview. So of course, I sent you an invite, and the invite I told you what we are going to be, talking about because I did not just send you a random invite. I believe that you might also experience this problem. So now it's time to now ask, this same question again. So where it becomes a problem is if Oladipo have not really used any app like this, like me. Currently, I use solar here, so I don't bother myself with power supply and all that. So, but you might definitely meet a lot of users that are like me, right? Or you might meet a lot of users that have not seen power supply for a very long time. So that's why you really need to know your audience. Imagine interviewing someone from a specific area, maybe in Osun State or in Benin City, and they've not seen light for over a year. I mean, the conversation is going to be very weird because they don't even know what you're talking about in the first place. So, all right. So, let's see. So you have to phrase the question in a way that Oladipo will really understand and will be able to approach the question as well. So I would start by asking Oladipo, do you make your payments when it comes to your power supply and your utility bills and all that? Relating to power supply, of course. Do you make your payments in the bank? Do you make your payments in the office, or you prefer to use a mobile app for payments?
Presently, I don't use a mobile app, but I prefer to use a mobile. So I sometimes go to any outlet, any of the power distribution company outlets, or I go to the bank to make a payment.
Okay. So I think this is great. So I like what to realize here, and I can add it up here. So Oladipo currently do not. So I can make this big. Yeah, I can adjust. I think I can adjust the size. How do oh yeah, okay. So Oladipo currently is not using Uber app to make, but he would prefer to use app or use an app for payments. Okay, so have you tried using any app to make utility bill payments? Uh, Maybe within the past 1 year. Have you tried that at all, Oladipo?
Yes, I have tried.
Oh, okay. And if I may ask, why did you stop using it?
uh,
What?
because
Yeah.
not all the app has, because there are different type of prepaid meters that are out there. So not all of them support, or how will I say it? They have this kind of prepay meter that I use registered on their app to make payment.
Okay, so this is a finding right now, and the reason why I categorize this as a finding is because I mean I am not aware, but as a good researcher, so this is you have to make sure you avoid a mistake like this. You have to make sure you understand what you are researching, what you are interviewing someone for. It's just like you're trying to interview someone for a job position and you have no idea what happens there. That is going to be really problematic, right? Because you don't know what the person is saying. So right now, he said he's not using an app for the payments, but he tried it in the past. And please, you're going to repeat yourself. So um,
I
so you
said
said okay,
the
go on,
kind of
go on.
meter I use, they don't have it registered on their application to for it.
Okay, the kind of meter you use, uh,
Yeah,
you own currently do not support the mobile app integration,
yeah,
right? Okay,
yes.
meaning you have to go the manual route. All right, good. Okay, so I'm going to explain the product we're building. Then I will then ask you another question, which is going to lead to the reasons why I feel you should, the reasons why you would want to use this app, right? Okay, so since I've discovered this and I've discovered that okay, you are currently facing this challenge, and these are some of the past experience you had. Then I'll go ahead to now explain. So this is more like a pitch because the way you pitch this system. I don't know who is trying to log in, but I believe this is going to affect. It's going to affect me at the end of the day. Um, okay, so we are definitely going to stop here, but I'm just going to explain these parts first. And I would want us to even like schedule to finish this up as fast as possible because we have other sections to cover. Okay, so the final thing I will have to say on this call is the next thing we're going to do is to actually pitch this to Oladipo, and the way you pitch this is going to determine how he would perceive and he would want to use this app. So you have to make sure you put in your best in presenting this, in pitching this to Oladipo, right? So we'll stop here for now. We'll definitely continue this. I'm going to discuss with the management and we'll see how we can, give you a session to finish this up because this is really an interesting session when it comes to the research. And, this would, help us put every single bit together to come up with the best experience for the user. I really hope you enjoyed this session this night. Hopefully, in the next session, we'll try our best to be fast and to cover up the complete section from the user persona, and then we would also move straight down to the talking about the user stories. We already have a couple of stories from there. We would also move some of them here, especially on the user stories before the release, of course. So we'll come up with the user stories. We also have a user persona section. So I think this is actually for a different purpose. That's why you see it's separated. Then we'll use this one. We already have like a wireframe or something, and even maybe when we have our mockup, we can conduct this again. So for now, user personnel, and we are still working on this. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful night, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you, my friends.
Right.